welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. My name is Glenn Taransky. I'm a member of the advisory board here at One Business World, the host of Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest in industry developments. Our goal is to provide the global business and entrepreneurial communities with a window into the minds of those who are shaping the future of the world. Today, we're very happy to welcome leading global communications expert, strategist, and coach, Alicia Sedgwick. Alicia is a professional communications coach, corporate trainer, and professional MC based in the Principality of Monaco, with an extensive background in the entertainment and events industry. She teaches at the International University of Monaco, as well as offering private coaching to corporations, associations, international schools, and individuals. Alicia is also a trained mediator, specializing in conflict management. She's hosted 3 Tedx conferences, managed international press conferences for the London 2012 Olympics, and managed red carpets for the Laureus World Sports Awards. She has managed talent relations for the BBC Chelsea Flower Show in London and in the green room at the World Music Awards. A professional blues singer, how about that, and a stage performer for over 25 years, Alicia has hosted her own internet TV show and radio show. She's a city-trained lawyer. She's co-founder and managing director of Absolutely Monaco, an events management company, and Monte Carlo Media Incorporated. Alicia, we're very pleased to be with you again this morning. Thanks for joining us here. We look forward to your exciting conversation on how to be brilliant in Zoomland. If you would have asked me 20 months ago that we would have a name called Zoomland, I probably wouldn't have believed it. So let me hand it off to you, and I'll be back with you on the backside. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, so much, and welcome to this session. Welcome to 24-karat magic. Because when you see a magician do their magic tricks, you think, how do they do it? Well, today I'm going to give you some tips and techniques so that when you communicate, people will say, how do you do it? The first thing that you need to know is that whenever you communicate and however you communicate, it's never about you. It's about your audience and how you want them to think, what you want them to feel or do as a result of your communication. So it's not about you, it's about your audience. So fabulous. The onus is off of you. If you get nervous, it's not about you. If you're shy, it's not about you, it's about your audience. If you think about it, when you watch somebody speaking or you listen to somebody speaking, if they're all huddled up and they're shaky and they're not really looking at you, you feel really uncomfortable and you think, oh gosh, what's wrong with them? Do they really want to be here? Because I don't want to be here. I don't want to witness this. It makes me feel embarrassed. It makes me feel uncomfortable. You don't want your audience to feel like that. You want your audience to feel really comfortable, relaxed, interested, and engaged. So you think about them and how they think, what they feel, and what you want them to do as a result of your communication. Now, maybe you do still get nervous and shaky, and it's perfectly understandable if you do. So to stop that shakiness, you know, when you pick up your notes and your hand is shaking or your legs are wobbling and you can feel your voice is a little bit trembly too, what I want you to do is to clench everything very, very tightly. Clench your hands, clench your arms, clench your stomach, clench your legs, clench your bottom, clench everything tight, 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 and then release. And when you do that, everything calms down and it stops shaking and it stops you from shaking. So you clench everything tight, 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 and then release. Now, I've just exaggerated that to show you how to do it, but actually you do it and nobody knows that you are doing it. which is terrific. All part of the magic, you see. We're getting into the magic already. And you are always in control of your communication, because remember, it's your communication. It's your conversation. I don't know what you are going to say. So I don't know if you have made a mistake. So you are always in control and in command. And you've stopped yourself from feeling shaky. And actually, you've stopped yourself from feeling particularly nervous because you know that it's not about you, it's about your audience. But maybe your mouth is dry. You know that feeling where your tongue sort of gets stuck to the top of your mouth, the top of your mouth, or your teeth, and it gets stuck, and you sort of feel, my mouth is so dry that I can't really get the words out. So what do? You very gently, very, very gently bite the inside of your cheek. Very gently. I do not want to inflict any pain on anyone who is listening and watching today. So very gently bite the inside of your cheek. Left or right, doesn't matter. Immediately, if you do that, you will find that you have saliva in your mouth. Now, you may not want to do that because you're a little bit afraid of actually drawing blood rather than saliva. And if that's the case, instead, what you could do is to run your tongue around the front of your teeth. Now, again, I've just exaggerated that to show you. But actually, if you do it very quickly, nobody is going to know that you're doing it. Just as when you bite the inside of your cheek, when you clench and release, nobody knows you're doing it, but it will give you saliva in your mouth. Clenching and releasing would have calmed you down and stopped you from shaking. Maybe though, instead of a dry mouth, you have the opposite, and you've got too much saliva in your mouth. And so what happens is that you're actually spitting at your audience or at the screen. So the way to stop that is actually to breathe. Now, breathing is very, very important in more ways than one. And it's very important because not only does it help you to actually have power when you're speaking, but it can also reduce that excessive moisture in your mouth. So you have to remember to breathe. And we forget to breathe when we are anxious and when we are nervous. So I have an exercise that I call the 7-11. And it's not a shop, it's a breathing exercise. So what you do is to breathe in for 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you let it out for 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you breathe in for 7, and then you let it out for 11. And if you do that a few times, particularly before you speak, before you know that you're going to speak, it will help you get into the rhythm of breathing. It will help stop that excessive saliva in your mouth, and it will help you to remember that you must breathe. And actually, it's also going to help calm you down when you are clenching and releasing too. The thing is that with your breathing, the breath doesn't come from your throat or your chest. What happens when you breathe from up here is this. And you can see what's happening. Everything is tightening. And you don't want any tightening because it's going to constrict your voice. It's going to tighten around the vocal cords, which will mean that everything will be a little bit strained and tight. And we need it to be very free-flowing. We need you to be relaxed and comfortable everywhere in your body. So your breathing actually comes from your stomach or your diaphragm. And what happens when you take the breath is that you inflate a balloon in your stomach. And then when you breathe out, you deflate that balloon. So it's not easy, but it's something that you need to practice and get into every day. So when you breathe, the breath is coming from the stomach and you have just inflated a balloon in your stomach. And so you take that breath, inflating the balloon for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you deflate the balloon for 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, if you don't remember 7, 11, I think you will, but if you don't, instead, what you could do is to take 3 big breaths in and out. Remember, the breath in, inflating that balloon in your stomach. Out, deflate the balloon. In, inflate that balloon, breathing in through your nose, inflating the balloon in your stomach, and then out, deflating the balloon in the stomach. And then on the 3rd one, in. And as you breathe out, I want you to think of your happy place. I'm just thinking about my happy place. And as you can see, I'm happy. You can see that I'm happy. I'm actually thinking about my happy place, which is where I'm speaking to you from right now. It's in the south of France. And I am very, very blessed to be living right across from the sea. And I can look out my window now and see the sea, and there's palm trees, and it's beautiful. It's my happy place. I wonder where your happy place is. Well, I want you to think of that happy place when you breathe out on the 3rd breath. It will make you smile. It will make you relax. It will make you feel comfortable. And that's how you want to appear when you are on screen or when you are in person, when you are speaking, so that your audience feels involved, engaged, and comfortable with you. Now, I just said that your audience needs to feel engaged and involved. And another part of the magic, engaging your audience, is to actually look them in the eye. Now, when you are in person, the way that you do that, if you have a number of people that you are speaking to, is to snake around the room. So with your eyes, you're going to snake around the room so that everybody in that room feels that you are speaking to them. Because everyone in the room needs to know that you are speaking to them. You know, if you have a conversation one-on-one, most of the time you look that person in the eye. I'm saying most of the time because in some cultures it's actually disrespectful to look the person in the eye when you're speaking to them. But generally, for effectiveness, for engagement, for the other person to feel that you are interested in them, you look them in the eye. Because if you look over their shoulder, if you're not looking at them, they think, well, are you not interested in me? Why aren't you looking at me? Do you not want to be here? Do you not want to be speaking to me? So everyone that you speak to needs to feel that you are talking to them. And when there's many people in a room, the way that you achieve that is to snake around the room with your eyes so that everyone feels that you are speaking to them. Again, if you don't remember snaking, instead, one sentence or one thought, one pair of eyes. One sentence, one thought, one pair of eyes. One sentence, one thought, one pair of eyes, and so on. Now, you might say to me, but Alicia, I am speaking to a room and the audience is in the dark. I'm at a podium on a stage, the light is on me, but my audience is in the dark. I can't see them. So what do I do? And if you say that to me, I would say, very, very good point. And it's true. But here's the thing. You would have gone to the room. You know where your audience is seated. You know how the room is configured. And so you know that there are people in front of you, there's people at the side of you, there's people behind those people at the back and maybe above. So you still snake around that room or think one thought, one sentence, one pair of eyes, and so on. Because it doesn't matter if somebody isn't seated in row 32, if somebody isn't in seat number 45. The effect and the magic is that you will seem as if you are speaking to everyone in the room and they are all involved with what you are saying. Now, when you are on screen, when you are on camera, the way that you achieve this engagement is to look at the camera, not at the screen. I'm looking at the screen now. You've lost me. Now I'm coming back to the camera. You need to look at the camera and not the screen. And that camera needs to be at eye level or slightly above, so that you are engaging, engaging, engaging. Now, your notes can either be behind the camera, or if they're on the screen, have them on the screen pretty high up on the screen, and so that they are to the left or to the right, however you view your screen best. And you can glance at it then, glance at your notes, come back to the camera, glance at your notes, come back to the camera, glancing at the notes for a second, but coming back to that camera really quickly and fast as soon as you can, so that you continue to engage, engage, engage. So the camera is at eye level or slightly above. And you continue to keep engaging by looking at that camera, not at the screen. Even when you're FaceTiming, even when you're WhatsApp videoing, even of course, when you're on Zoom or Google Meets or any of the numerous platforms that we are now using constantly, look at the screen, not look at the camera, not at the screen. Do as I do, not as I say. No, please look at the camera, not at the screen, and have that camera at eye level or slightly above. The light needs to be in front of you, not behind you, not coming in from the sides, and not on top of you. It needs to be in front of you, because if it is behind you, you're going to be blurred. You're going to be distorted on the screen. And if it's coming in at the sides or it's coming in on top of you, again, it is going to blur. It's also going to cast shadows, and you are not literally going to be seen in your best light. So try to have that light in front of you, not behind you, not on top of you, not coming in from the sides. And you need to be centrally framed on the screen. You need to be in the middle of the screen. And there needs to be a slight gap between the top of your head and the top of the screen, so that your audience can really see you clearly, and they can see that you are involved with them, that you're interested in them, and they will then be involved and interested in you too. So central framing, slight gap between the top of your head and the top of the screen, and the light in front of you, not behind you, not on top, not coming in from the sides. The best color on camera and on screen is blue. Yes, blue looks very, very good. So does purple. So does taupe or taupe, however you pronounce it. So does green. Red doesn't look good. it bleeds. Black doesn't look good. It's going to cause shadows again. If you're a little bit dark under the eyes, it's going to make those circles under your eyes look even darker. And indeed, so will white. White has the effect of whiting you out and making you look a bit ghostly, and it's not going to make your face look the best that it can be. So best colors on screen and on camera are blue, green, purple, and taupe or taupe. Don't wear checks or stripes because they are going to distort on the screen. So gentlemen, if you're wearing a dark jacket, for example, I would suggest that you have a light blue shirt underneath. And if you wear a tie, and I know a lot of gentlemen don't wear ties nowadays, but if you do, make sure that that tie is the same sort of colors and that it's not busy, you know, that it doesn't have big flashy things on it or logos or just checks and stripes again. So that your dark jacket, your pale blue shirt or a nice blue shirt, vivid blue, and your tie, the same kind of colors and no checks, no stripes, so that that will look really, really effective on screen. Ladies, you can wear jewelry. Gentlemen, you can wear jewelry too. But make sure that that jewelry isn't distracting, that it isn't making me look at your jewelry rather than listen to what you are saying. Because the whole thing is that you want your audience to listen to you. You want your audience to engage with you because it's about your audience. So you don't want any distractions. And that includes no distractions in the background. Your background should be clear. A lot of people ask me, how about a blurred background or one of these virtual backgrounds? And my reply to that is a very firm no. Because what happens with the blurred backgrounds and the virtual backgrounds is that you blur into them when you move. So, you know, I've slightly moved my head. If I had a blurred background or a virtual background, what would have happened is that you would have lost part of my head. You would have lost an ear. You would have lost part of me. And if you lose part of me, you're losing my presentation. You're losing part of my communication. So you don't want your audience to lose any part of you. So virtual backgrounds, blurred backgrounds, no. But the background does need to be clear. No distractions from what you are saying and what your message is. And that also includes the way that you move. Now, you have seen, unfortunately, I've had to place my glasses back on my nose. As much as possible, actually, you shouldn't be doing that because it is a little bit distracting. I've just drawn attention to it. Maybe you didn't notice, I hope you didn't. But as much as possible, your movements should be in line with your message. So if you're going to use your hands, and it is okay for you to use your hands, for you to show your hands, but not all of the time, and not like this, and not punching at the camera, not pointing at the camera, not having your hands right up against that camera, because what's happened now is that you are following my hands and you're not listening to me anymore. So any movement that I make has to be in line with my message. So maybe I can use my hands for emphasis. Maybe I can use them for explanation, but I don't want to be using them all the time, because what will happen is that then you're following my hands, you're not listening to me anymore. It is okay to show your hands, but appropriately and in line with what you are saying, maybe for emphasis. Whenever you do use your hands, even when you're speaking in person, let alone on screen and on camera, the movement is always an outward one from the waist. So don't start using your hands up here, because it's a bit frenetic, isn't it? It's a bit frantic, and it's a bit sort of, and again, it detracts from what you are saying. So the movement of your hands when you're speaking in person, even when you are speaking on camera, it's an outward movement, upward from your waist. And if I go back to as well the framing on the screen, so you're centrally framed, you are also going to be at the top of your head down to here, your chest, so that we're then not actually seeing too much of you. Now, some of you I know like to stand when you're on camera and on screen, and that's okay. But I actually advise most of my students to be seated, because the problem is that when you're standing, if you are going to be talking for a long time, and even 10 minutes actually of standing when you're communicating on camera is quite a long time, what happens is that you tend to droop down, and you might then get to sort of lean down or bend a leg. And you can see what happens immediately that I did that. If I'm bending a leg or I kind of droop down, it's a very different effect than when I'm sitting with my feet firmly on the ground and my shoulders are back and down. You're seeing the top of my head down to my chest. I'm centrally framed, little bit of a gap between the top of the head and the top of the screen. So if you are going to stand, just make sure that you keep what I call the power pose. And the power pose is your legs hip width apart, feet firmly on the ground, and your shoulders back and down, hands by your side. If you're seated, you can have your hands on your lap, you can have them on the desk. And again, you've got your power in the way that you are talking. It makes you look as if you are interested in your audience, and that way they will be interested in you too. You can lean forward, that's fine, but certainly do not lean back. As soon as you lean back, again, very different approach. So power pose, when you are speaking in person and you're standing, it's legs hip width apart, feet firmly on the ground, shoulders back and down, hands by your side. Or if you've got a podium, put your hands on the podium. That's also very good if it is your tendency to use your hands a lot. Put them on the podium. When you're seated, have them on your lap, have them on the table or the desk, because that way you're not tempted to actually start using them. I have a lot of Italian students. They, of course, speak with their hands. I've learned a whole new language from my Italian students just by using my hands. But the problem is that when you're speaking, particularly on camera, and even when you're speaking in person, you can't do that because it's a distraction and it loses the effect of what you are saying. And all of the time, it is to be effective and get your message across. So I spoke to you about the background, that needs to be clear. I've spoken to you about not having distracting mannerisms like using your hands too much, maybe sort of touching your glasses, touching your head, touching your neck, that sort of thing. Also, a distraction is if you sit in a high-backed chair. High-backed chairs, when you are on camera, are not a good idea. You look as if you are sitting on the Starship Enterprise or you are part of another science fiction movie or series. Now that's okay if you are on the Starship Enterprise and you are part of a science fiction movie or series. It's not okay when you are communicating on camera and online. because it makes you look as if you're in that science fiction movie. Also, high back chairs tend to be on wheels. And so what happens is that you move in them. With the best will in the world, you're going to move in that chair. And they also, not only do they move on wheels, but they also swing or they rock. And so you tend to rock or you swing in the chair. And immediately, you can see even from that movement, rolling on the chair, it's distracting. It's taking away from what you are saying. And it's taking you away from me as the audience and your message and how you want me to think, how you want me to feel, or what you want me to do as a result of your communication. Every communication is a conversation. Okay, it's a little bit one-sided, but it is still a conversation. And what that means is that I don't know what you are going to say. So I don't know if you have made a mistake unless you say, oops, sorry, didn't mean to say that. Oops, sorry, I've made a mistake. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I wouldn't know that you've made a mistake until you highlight it by saying sorry or oops or something like that. Every communication that you make is your communication. It's your conversation. You are in control and in command. Now, when you're on camera, it has the effect of dulling you down. So you need to be enthusiastic and upbeat. You need to bring energy to the conversation. So before you come on camera, it would be great if you give yourself a little bit of a pep up. Maybe you can do some affirmations, I am great, I am fabulous, I can do this. Or maybe you listen to some music and you dance around the room so that when you come on screen and you come on camera, you are upbeat, you're enthusiastic, and you're coming to this conversation with energy. And you need to keep up that energy and that enthusiasm all the way through your communication, through your conversation. And you need to smile appropriately. You need to look at that camera as if you are talking to someone that you are very warmly disposed towards. Because when you do that, you are going to make your audience immediately feel very warm and very warmly disposed towards you too. So be enthusiastic, keep up the energy, keep up the power, smile appropriately, and look at that camera as if that camera is someone that you are really very, very fond of. And also try to keep your voice to the lower register. Try not to be up here. Try not to use your voice high and a little bit scratchy. If you use your lower register, again, it sounds so much warmer and people will want to listen to you. And try not to go up at the end of the sentence. If you go up at the end of the sentence, it makes you sound a little less in control, a little less confident, and also a little less trustworthy. So instead of going up at the end of the sentence, try to either go down or keep it at the same level. And also try not to speak too fast or too slow. People, again, when they get anxious and when they get nervous, they tend to gabble because you want to get to the end of the conversation or the communication. Or otherwise, you speak too slow because you're thinking about what it is that you want to say. So try to keep the pace to this. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. And you say that 3 times. Let me say it for you again. Imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. And that's the pace that you should be speaking every time you speak, whether it's on camera or in person. Now, the thing is that you may still feel nervous. You may still feel shy. I hope that you don't after this presentation and my communication with you and conversation. If you do, instead of thinking, I feel nervous, I feel apprehensive, I want you to feel excited. I want you to feel that every time you communicate, it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to share wonderful you. And believe me, that is 24 karat magic. So Glenn, have you got any questions for me after that?
Well, I as I was listening, I was minusing points off my score for my virtual background. The fact that I'm wearing black today, I haven't waved my hands yet in front of the camera, so I'm clenching onto my wrist now, not to get any more points deducted. But yeah, this was this.
I love you, Glenn. I really do love you, and and I know that next time that I see you, you're going to be wearing a lovely blue shirt. And
I'm hoping Brooks Brothers has the sale this week, because I got to go to the store and get a whole bunch of blue shirts.
I've had to totally change my wardrobe too, so I feel you.
No, these were great. It's public speaking, and whether it's live or live via Zoom, like we've been doing here for the last 20 months, hard to believe, right?
Yes.
It's so important, because you still need to connect with people, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person, right?
Yes.
You want that, and I like what you said about snaking around the room. I went to the high school seminary, so one of the things, as you think about whether or not you want to become like a member of the clergy, it's they teach you how to do sermons, right? And you can always tell some of the now clergy who took it a little bit too to heart, and they all of a sudden they just like raising their head up, and it's like, no, that's all well and good if you're in the back, but you have to. And I watch some of like the local clergy sometimes, and they do that snake around, and they actually, when you got the congregation in the round, they kind of do they move their body as well, which I'm always impressed by that,
Yes.
as it goes.
Yes, I think that it's possible to do that, and yes, okay, yes, you can move your body, but a lot of my students say to me, well, Alicia, you've spoken to us about the power pose and keeping it still and keeping it strong, and they say, but I like to move, and I say, okay, I respect and appreciate that you like to move. But let's go back to my original point at the start of the presentation and my communication. And that was that your communication is never about you, it's about your audience. And so if you are moving, what's the effect for your audience? Now you've just said, Glenn, that some of the clergy, that they're moving, they're snaking around, and they're also moving their body at the same time, so that it is embracing the audience and it is getting them involved and engaged. But sometimes if you're pacing up and down or you're moving around, it has the adverse effect, because it then becomes a distraction. And I'm following your movement and I'm thinking, well, why are they pacing up and down? What's that got to do with the message that they're speaking about? So movement is very important in terms of what's the effect on your audience. And actually, it's the same as using visual aids too. What's the effect for your audience? Is it actually enhancing your message, or is it actually a distraction? Right. So, yeah, engaging with your audience is really, really important. And whether that's looking at the camera or whether it's snaking around or one thought, one pair of eyes. I believe that your ex-President Obama, terrific orator, as we know, actually, I've heard that he's spoken at COP26 this week, and he actually spoke for an hour without any notes and was highly engaging. And Obama, what he does when he speaks is he has one monitor here and he has one monitor here, and then there's the camera in the middle. And he actually pans from the monitor here and he goes across and he goes across to the other monitor, and then he comes back. And the effect is that he's snaking around the room, but he's also engaging with the camera too. So very, very clever. He's learnt one of my techniques and he's producing 24 karat magic.
Yeah. I've done a bunch of speaking and presentations in over the course of my career. I haven't had monitors. I've had notes and things like that. I liked what you said about the podium. I don't mind using a podium, and sometimes, as you said, for your hands, it's kind of helpful.
Yes.
And I know when I do stroll, I kind of take the Bob Dole, keep a pen in my hand, kind of thing, right, as my clench. I try to, because that usually helps me stay grounded as well. And as you know, I've been doing some teaching here. So as we try to get our students less frightened about public speaking and presentations, a lot of these have been wonderful techniques to share with them as well.
Thank you.
There's an old Jerry Seinfeld joke from the show where it talks about they say that public speaking is the number one fear. It even exceeds death, right, on the list. And so the joke was, imagine if you were at the funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. Which is kind of frightening.
Yes.
As it plays out.
So true, so very true. I mean, I have had the honor of speaking, giving eulogies, and several of my friends or connections have said to me, I don't know how you do that, because it's so emotional for one thing, but also just, to be able to speak in such a situation. And they would agree with Jerry Seinfeld that they prefer to be in the casket. So yeah, it is such a big fear for people. And I really hope that by giving the 24 karat magic, that it can actually help overcome that fear. Because, if you begin with that premise, that it isn't about you, and then the onus is off of you. Because, I think generally people are very caring and they are very considerate and they want their audience to feel good about themselves. And so in thinking about that, rather than I want to feel good about myself, think about the audience, and they need to feel good. They need to feel comfortable. They need to feel relaxed. The onus is off of you then, and it does take away a lot of the nerves and a lot of the shyness as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like similar to leaving a good musical, right? You're humming the final show. When the audience leaves, you want them to remember what you had said and take away a few tips or thoughts and things that they could apply.
Yes.
Yes. You said about the strolling, and I like to walk around a little bit. When I was early on in my career, they send you to presentation school, right? If you're going to teach, and they filmed us. And I remember watching the filming and thinking, wow, I didn't know I was Dorothy Hamill making all of these figure eights as I walked around the room. I got dizzy watching it.
How wonderful that they sent you to presentation school. I mean, that's something that doesn't happen here, or doesn't happen in England either. That would be wonderful. I always film my students when they do a presentation, young, old, and younger and older. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're in the corporate world, if they're in the university world, school world, whatever. I always get them to be filmed, because you too learn so much when you watch those films back. And actually, what is wonderful too is that they can see the journey of their progress, because from presentation 1 to presentation 3, 4, or 5, the improvement is immense. And it takes very, very little for it to be a good presentation and a great presentation, for it to be effective, for it to make an impact. And when you watch yourself back and you can actually see what you are doing, yeah, you learn very, very fast.
No, all great tips. All great tips. The breathing is important, as you mentioned. The 7-11 is a great technique. And I liked what you said about the moving on the inside of your lips and teeth. It's also because it's easy to get kind of dry mouth and start to have a kind of a little bit of a panic attack as you go through it. You hope not.
Yes. Yes. And the wonderful thing about all of those magic tricks is that nobody knows that you're doing them. And so it's really helpful for you, but nobody knows that that's how you're feeling, so that you're still coming across as magic. You're still coming across as engaging and involved and interested, but you're just doing those little things which are actually helping you along the way, so that you can keep up the power and keep up that energy too, which you need to do, particularly when you're on camera.
No, and you know what you said was interesting too about the giving yourself a little bit of a confidence shot before you get out there, right? If you need that little bit of energy just to kind of get, it's like when you watch, if you ever see like a backstage of a concert performer, right? The overture is starting, and then you see the performer in the back, and they're getting ready, and all of a sudden it's out they go, and then the lights are on and the applause starts, and you kind of drive off that energy. It's the same thing from speaking, right? You come out and it's, here I am. I am the presentation. This is my PowerPoint. That's the visual aid. Please look at me and pay attention to me, and I'm going to make it worth your while as we go along. You also said, I thought was very important, and I try to teach this with the students as well. If you make a mistake, nobody knows that, just you. No reason to apologize. Don't get clumsy over it. Just keep moving on, right?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to pause. People think that they've got to be talking whenever they do a presentation. Actually, you don't have to. If you think that it's a conversation, when you have a conversation, you don't speak all the time. So it gives you permission, if you like, to be able to stop talking. Think of it as a conversation. As a conversation, you're not going to talk all of the time. So you give yourself permission to pause, to compose yourself, to take a look at your notes, and then to come back to the camera, or to take a brief look at your notes, come back to your audience, start the snaking around again. But give yourself permission to stop, give yourself permission to pause, give yourself permission to take your time. You are in control, you are in command of every communication, every conversation that you have. So you can take your time. And I liked as well what you said, when you look at somebody who's coming on stage, they're coming in from backstage, and then they come into the light and it's showtime. And I think that all business is show business. So when you are on camera, or when you're speaking in person, when you get out there, or when you get on that camera, it is showtime. And that means, yes, you're going to shine. All business is show business. So when you speak, yes, you're putting on a show. That doesn't mean that you're not authentically you, because you do need to be authentically you, or people won't believe in you, they won't trust you, they won't want to listen to you. but you are putting on a show. That's why I say that it's 24 karat magic, because it's magic. You kind of switch it on. Yay, here I am.
What I learned a lot for that was in the case of when I was being translated. Like I was overseas in Shanghai and Beijing, and they were doing, I guess it wasn't simultaneous, so it was, I guess it was concurrent. And I found that incredibly helpful because it gave me, well, okay, I can't go too far because they don't have my script, because I really didn't have one. I just kind of, kind of went up there and started talking. So
Yeah.
it forced me to stop, let them catch up. But it was a great chance to catch my breath, but also just for that moment in my own mind, okay, what do I want to say next? What, did I leave anything out? And all of that became a great kind of cushion, but it helped round out the presentation as well.
Yes, it's a great leveler that. Interestingly, yes, I learned that too when I moderated the international press conferences at the London 2012 Olympics. Again, we had simultaneous translation and not simultaneous too. And yes, it did make me very aware of the pace that I was speaking, and to actually take a moment and to take my time. So yes, that's a great leveler and a really great way actually to learn that pausing and that pacing too. And it is very important. Pause also can be used for effect sparingly, that if you feel that you've lost your audience's attention, if you just pause, even for a second, they'll come back to you once you continue. So it can be used in that way, but again, I would say sparingly, because otherwise it becomes, it's like, well, why is she stopping talking all the time? So yes, pause is a very important key in public speaking.
Absolutely. Well, one last piece here, then, and you can't minus points because you can't see it, but my Captain Kirk chair is behind me. And it's true what you said about the wheels. All of a sudden to be like, wait a minute, I'm sliding a little bit. This isn't good. Wait a minute, I'm going to go under the table. Let me hold on for dear life, right?
So now I have this vision of you, Glenn, that you're moving around, sliding around the room, and you're blurring into the background even when you're doing it. And
you gotta be careful. Well, they don't call it high-speed internet for no reason, right?
I'm just so happy that I've had the opportunity to speak with you today and our listeners and viewers. And that you have given the minus points for everyone to learn from so positively. So you see, you are an example for everyone.
One last question, because I can't possibly write it down fast enough. Can you do the Imagine Menagerie one more time?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say it even slower so that if anybody who is watching or listening wants to write it down, it is imagine an imaginary menagerie manager managing an imaginary menagerie. Now, people say to me, what on earth does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just that it gets you into the pace that you should be speaking. So it's imagine, comma, an imaginary, comma, menagerie, comma, manager, comma, managing, comma, an imaginary, comma, menagerie. And that comma is there to make you breathe and to make you pause. And you say that exercise 3 times. Say it 3 times every day. Say it 3 times before you're going to give a presentation, and it will get you into the pace that you should be speaking every time you communicate. And actually, it's good even in your everyday life if you are speaking at that pace, because otherwise it's going to be too fast or too slow. And do try to make as well your communication expressive. You know, when I spoke about energy, it's also giving vocal variety. Use your voice. You know, we have beautiful voices. We've got the gift of a voice. Use it. Use it. Use it quietly. Use it loudly. Use it for emphasis. Use it sometimes a bit quicker and then slow it down. Use your voice with expressiveness, because that will also enhance your presentation and your conversation and your communication. And it will really help with that magic that you are going to produce every time you communicate.
Well, thank you for repeating. The comma is our friend. We have to remember that.
Yes.
Listen, Alicia, thank you so much. 24 karat gold is an understatement. Fantastic presentation, wonderful tips and techniques for our audience. I learned a lot, as I always do, on all of these leading entrepreneurs of the world broadcasts we do, and you're such a delight. Thank you for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you soon next time, okay?
Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you, leading entrepreneurs of the world. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you. Take good care.